4A driver is going to take on the wonderful challenge of Monza Combined. Now, this is a tricky track. It's not quite what you expect when you think of Monza. We have the big, wide banking, and that's going to cause quite a shakeup in how this race happens tonight. So, we have a 100-minute race ahead of us, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. What about you, Zach?
Oh, I think it'll be a fun one to watch. This is one that certainly is not a mainstay for endurance. I mean, it's not even something that is probably legal to race today. I mean, like when they ran this in 1933, it was so dangerous that they stopped, and I feel like that says a lot. When 90 years ago it was too dangerous, it's a little bit wild to be doing it today.
Yeah, I remember 90 years ago, they were pretty much racing in bathtubs. That might have been even longer than that, but it's quite a dangerous, scary track, especially that banking, which is very high and very, very bumpy. And I'm very excited to see how that goes. Let's watch Brad McCombs go into it now with that gyro cam here.
Yeah, so that main straight gets split into two halves, and the right side goes through this oval.
Yeah, look how bumpy that car is, all over the place. At the wheel is Brad McCombs, and he manages to make it through, but it's just so scary. I don't even want to drive it. I would not do this in real life.
Yeah, check out the rejoin from Sope Elevata Sud. Once they get off the oval, there's a huge bump, and even in these things glued to the ground with aero, it's a little bit treacherous. So you'll see here when the track starts to flatten out, he needs to head left a little bit to avoid the barrier. Right there, there's a lift. They get a little bit of air on the front wheels and the rear wheels there. It's pretty scary.
Yeah, it's pretty sketchy, and it might provide for some mistakes later on, but look.
Yeah, and the first, as you just flipped away from there, but yeah, the first chicane also being removed, so they're just driving straight through it, which is always a ton of fun because I hate the first chicane, so the Red Filo chicane sucks. So that's always what you want to do. You've wanted to do is just drive straight and just avoid the whole thing.
Here it is. Another onboard. This is Steven Shepard here. Goes right through it.
Yeah, then it puts a lot more stress on the tires in Curva Grande than it normally does. I mean, normally you're coming from a very low speed. Now you've been on throttle for, a minute straight. So, touches the grass there. Sorry about the curse there.
We know it all too well here. Now, they did vote. I believe you can get rid of this second chicane here as well. But they did vote to keep it. So it's not quite an oval. Although, if they got rid of it, it might be similar to one.
Yeah, and I think it was the right decision because the like chicane, not chicane, just the kink that ends up being the Rogia when you don't have that, it actually makes it a lot more dangerous because people are going to be like trying to make moves there. There's not any great passing zones, and then you're going really fast into the Lesmos. So I think it was probably the right choice. However, from what I've seen, I don't think that there's ever, just in history, once they stopped running this combined layout, that was before the Rogia chicane even existed. So this is actually something that would have never happened in real life.
Yeah. I mean, I can't get over the insanity of this track. It is quite a layout. And, of course, this being brought on as a one-time thing, most likely. Unless this race goes, perfectly, not an incident, I don't think this track will be coming back next season.
Yeah, and, we wanted to mix things up from doing just the same tracks over and over again. And certainly Monza's not one that would never return. Monza's a great track. So it would certainly be one that returns future. The combined, I don't know, but,
I guess only time will tell. Now, the pit lane, I want to talk about that real quick because it is quite tricky. We see here, that's the pit lane exit right there, and that was the flying full throttle car. So the pit lane dumps you right out, into where the drivers have been coming out of the Parabolica entering this long oval, as you see them coming by now.
Yeah, and there's like no pit exit line either. After those green cones, it's just like free for all, just like join in. So hopefully there's no incidents with people coming out of the pits and stuff. But there's certainly no line to kind of facilitate safe exit of the pits here.
Yeah, so that could be a little sketchy, a little scary, but I think that could be a lot of fun as well. I did have an insider tip from a driver that there may be some interesting pit strategies going on here tonight. So I'm excited to see what that means. That's pretty much all the info I have on it, but it could be fun.
Yeah, I have to imagine there's something with fuel here, because I mean this goes beyond what we saw when we did the historic Le Mans, where they were on that Mulsanne straight for so long during the lap. Like, this is even more than that as far as fuel usage. Again, this is known as the Temple of Speed in its normal Grand Prix configuration. At least at F1 is always the highest percent of time on throttle during the whole calendar. So this just elevates it, 10 levels beyond that.
Yeah. I am trying to brainstorm here what these possible pit strategies could be. Is it running super light and low fuel to try to bring down that lap time and reduce all the weight you can? Is it going super long, fuel saving massively? I don't know.
Yeah, like I said, I think it has to be fuel and not tires, but I have no idea. I have no idea what the game plan is.
I am excited to see, though. We'll have to keep an eye.
I'm interested to see Adrian Garcia Vigil there at the top. So during practice, he was like 2 seconds faster than everybody, huge gap. And then here in qualifying, not quite 2 seconds, but still nearly 8/10 ahead of everybody. So he has some sort of secret here that he was able to do both in practice and qualifying, at least in pace. And so we'll see how that does in the race, because I mean, like, teamwork and drafting and all that's going to be a big deal for sure.
Yeah, now I know that the draft is worth a lot of time around here. We saw that in practice, but a 7/10 gap, not too bad. And the people that we usually see up there, Tyler Langenberg, Terry Cowger Jr., they are 10th and 11th in class. Now that is not what we're used to for here, is it?
No, that's what I know is going to be fun, because this is just, I mean, sure, the Grand Prix section of it may be normal, but everything else is just so weird that I think we'll get some interesting results. But despite that, Paul Boyle there has still put himself above all the amateurs, but Richard Curry is there on top, just behind him.
Yeah, so not like last week. We're not going to see Travis Bell taking the overall win, but we could, but it's not looking like it as clear as it was last week. Now, I was calling Travis Trevor a few times, and now there's an actual Trevor in this league. So if you're a Travis Bell supporter, or you're watching for Trevor Dyer, I might mix the two up.
Yeah, the no passing, in case you were curious, the no passing will be until they get on the bank. So, I guess that's kind of turn one, but then I'm not sure, I don't know exactly how they're doing it, but there was talk about the LMP2s starting double file, because it's been a consideration just because of how long the parade lines get when we do it single file with the GT3s at the back. So potentially might be double file for the LMP2s up front today, and maybe something continuing forward.
Yeah, the guys in the LMP2, they know how to race. They're pros, and I think just to shorten those lines up, I think they could handle a 2-wide start, especially here at Monza, where you have a minute of on throttle until the next turn.
It is surprisingly thin, the oval, much thinner than really any like actual modern oval. So I'm interested to see if there's if we come upon any traffic issues during this race. Two guys battling each other, and then an LMP2 comes through. Like, I mean, 3 can fit somewhat comfortably, but like I don't think you can go 4 wide on this oval section here, even in the flat part.
Yeah, that might be a little bit tricky. I haven't actually driven this, I mean, I've driven Monza, but I've never driven the combined oval on iRacing, so it's not quite a familiar topic for me. But it'll
I
be a lot of
have with
fun.
the Lotus 49s, and it was wild. It was terrifying. This will be a lot easier for these guys than the 49s. It'll be a lot less scary, but still crazy.
Yeah, that's the bathtub that I was talking about. That was 1949,
Exactly.
so, I mean, back in the 30s, they were running even something more crazy. Looks like Travis Bell, on occasion of being called Trevor, has a livery memorializing that in some way for next week, so I can't wait to see what that is.
Yep, just a few guys left out on track. Again, can't really tell. Well, Marcus Osborne has just one lap in, so it'll be useful for him to get another one down. If he hasn't, he's kind of driving it slow. I think maybe he makes a mistake there. So I'm sorry, Marcus. I cursed him there. Look, moving the camera over to him. But yeah, certainly a change up of the order that we normally expect, but still some familiar faces up near the top, and those Doge Squad guys, 3 of the top 4 for all the GT3s, and clearly put in their practice. Although again, we see Paletti running a different car than the other 2.
So look out for that in the race.
Yeah.
Don't get pushed behind the fence. That's all I can really say about that. But qualifying is over. So let us take a look at our grid in just 1 minute here. That was an interesting qualifying session. Really shook it up.
Yeah, huge gaps among the field as well.
Yeah, I mean, the draft is really all you need. It's just get a good draft and you're out of there. But yeah, over 0.8 of a second for every class from first to second. Oh wait, let's see what we got up front. It's just under 0.8 of a second. So the game is still trying to register somebody as on track, so we'll see them go to the pits, or the game will transfer over, and then the grading procedure will start.
Okay, there we go. There we go. Yeah, I wasn't seeing anyone, but yeah, it looks like it's moved on.
Okay, so our grid for this race. Adrian Garcia of Aheel takes pole, and then Owen McLaughlin follows him for LMP2. Then Don McCloy, Paul Skip, Chris Richards, Andrew Neri, Tyler Langenberg, Brad McCombs, Nick Terrell, Zach Nernberger, Terry Cowger Jr., and Christopher Newby.
Then following those guys, starting at 13th, we have Mark Dillon Jr. and Marcus Osborne. Pole for all the GT3s, Paul Boyle, followed by pole for GT3 AM, Richard Curry. And then we have Aaron Claybaugh and Nicholas Paletti, Dustin Dos Valles, Jonathan Webb, Travis Bell, Keith Roycroft, Rick Hughes, and Daniel Real.
Okay. And following them, we have Michael Delasala, Christopher Craig, Daniel Hingley, James Foreman, Donovan Johnston, Stephen Shepard, Jeff McDonald, John Kelly, Steve Coubet, Sasha Kempter, Daniel Barnett, and Tom Atchity.
And finally, to round them off, we have Leonard Elijah, Craig Willis, Dan Coleman, Trevor Dyer, Kenneth Stanley, and Jeremy Barber.
All right, so that's quite the field we have here tonight, and I am quite excited. That's 42 cars. That is not a small number at all.
A long track, so it'll take a bit for the LMP2s to get around to the back of the GT3s, but they are really a lot faster in this track. So I mean, they got like a 13 plus second gap to those cars. So they are, luckily, we don't have to sit through an entire pace lap there. They're starting on one of those back stretches there before Ascari.
That would be a long pace lap, my friend, let me tell you. Let's take a look at our weather here. We got an 83-degree track temp here tonight. That's hotter than we usually see for E4A, but it's also not our usual E4A race here. The track, of course. So Adrian Garcia Vahil is on pole, and he's going to lead us away following that safety car for the Alien Awards Endurance for Amateurs Season 7, Round 4 here at Monza Combined.
Okay, so it looks like we are going single file. So still a potential option for the future, but going single file for tonight.
Single file for tonight is the call. You heard it here first, folks. And that is the wonderful Kimoa Fernando Alonso LMP2 car there of Adrian Garcia Vahil. As they come, that was the Ascari chicane there. And Daniel Hingley is going to start from the pits as well. So, no passing until the banking. And, yeah, I'm pretty excited for this race, my friend. What about you, Zach?
I'm looking forward to it. Let's see what happens coming down into the Rogia chicane.
Okay. So, into Parabolica. Hasn't this been renamed?
It technically has a different name. We're all calling it Parabolica.
Anyways, Adrian Garcia Vahil is going to have control of the field now, and the race is in his hands right now. Pole leader of E4A here, and he's going to look up, see that man in the stand, and he's going to wave the green flag. Away they go. So no passing until the banking. Nice. Looks pretty straightforward all the way down the field. A few people are in the pits. They're going to start from the pits, although there's not a lot of drama to miss by starting from the pits with that no passing rule.
Wow, look at that draft already eating up the heel. He's already second place.
Now he's going to try to be third almost now from Paul Skip is ahead of him. And now, even further back, Chris Richards is going to try to get by him. Now, I wonder if those people tactically didn't take pole.
Potentially. I mean, he got it by a lot, though. That's for sure. But being first, he's recovered well. He's fighting there for second. But, yeah, being first, not great. Yeah,
that was not a lot of fun for him. That lower line seeming to work way better. That's Chris Richards now is going to be past him. And, ooh, wow, they're getting nice and close. But they are now back on to the main straight, so they can scuffle. This is going to be into what would be the turn one chicane, but they're going to drive straight through it. They are all still way close to each other, too wide, going into Curva Grande. Wow.
And yeah, it looks like Owen McLaughlin's going to pull out with the lead. Won that draft battle there.
Yeah, that draft battle was pretty intense. Nobody wants to risk too much on lap one, but, you know, can't be too careful. Now, further back, that is a very green BMW of Keith Rycroft. Oh, and they make contact.
Oh, yeah, they got away.
That's Christopher Craig, I believe, in that Ferrari. No, Daniel Real in that blue Ferrari that made contact with Keith Rycroft, but not a big shunt, so they're okay. Marcus Osborne and Mark Dillon Jr.
Just a spin by Roycroft there.
Going for it further back down the field, but Mark Dillon Jr. is going to back out.
Jonathan Webb there has actually made up 3 spots. Leader of the GTD AM field now.
Yeah, not too bad. So Christopher Craig, and that was Mr. De La Sala that was trying to go for a move on him, but he had to back out.
No big disaster so far. Daniel Hingley, the only one to lose more than just a couple spots, and he did not start the... Marcus Osborne off in Parabolica.
Yeah, I saw a little smoke up there. We'll see what happened to him in just a second here. And
Slight damage.
Is it possible?
Right. I don't know what happened there, but
boom.
I think that he's giving it up.
In the wall, unfortunately, for Mr. Osborne.
Well, other than Osborne and Hingley, no major disasters. So this has been probably some white knuckle affair, but everyone's behaving quite well.
How about this? 3 wide.
Oh, wow, that looks awesome.
That is McLaughlin eating up his lead. Now Neri's out in front, and Paul Skip is right by him. Wow, what a view this is. Really show that banking as they really come uphill at the end of that.
And now McLaughlin falls back to 4th.
And McLaughlin's back down, and Chris Richards, his teammate, is up. And Paul Skip's going to look to take the lead. And Adrian Garcia Vahil is also coming back up in that pack. Zach Nurnberger into the grass behind. Terry Calgary Jr. shoots across.
Terrell in the grass.
Oh, yep, Terrell. Same color, though. And he survives it. Wow. Further back, coming down the straight, that's Paul Boyle chasing down his Chick-fil-A teammate. We've got KFC versus Chick-fil-A. I'll let you decide there, but I think I know my options, and I know my answer.
Yeah, I know. We talked about it last time. There's barely 1,000 KFCs in the UK, so not that I knew.
All right, well, further back, that's De La Sala and Foreman side by side, but De La Sala is ahead by the time they get through Curva Grande. And Steve Coubet in the Ford there, he's the one person to run the Ford. The Ford was actually leading the manufacturer's championship for a little bit, but last week his Ford absence bumped him down a little further. James Foreman having to go over the curb a little bit there. Oh, and that's Donovan Johnston spinning around with the Rainbow Cat, the Nyan Cat livery there in the Lamborghini.
Looks like he luckily didn't suffer any major damage there. But yeah, I mean, this is definitely going to be one that comes down to the end, I think, given the fact that McLaughlin went from 1st to 5th in one lap with making no mistakes. This one can definitely go pretty late.
Yeah, something tells me it's going to be similar to Daytona, and we know how close that was between Tyler Langenberg and the other driver, I believe, was Terry Calgary Jr. that won that race.
I'm thinking it's going to be more. Well, Paul Skip won at Daytona, but I'm thinking it's going to be more similar to like Daytona NASCAR. Like we've got like 2-3 wide at the line. I think there's a pretty good possibility. You can already see that with that thick peloton up at the front, and I mean those guys there could easily catch up if they do some bump drafting, you know.
Yeah, and I'll have to see how that the strategy plays out. We heard that it was a little tricky, right? Or not tricky, but different from what we're used to. So I think that could be in the works if not everybody follows the same strategy.
Yeah, they're clearly all those guys in the front running a similar thing. But yeah, there may be a fuel thing. Nick Terrell was one that had kind of talked before about having a strat, and I'm interested to see what it is. Although it's clearly not evident yet. He is hanging back there with a couple other guys, but they got a pretty good sized group there.
They definitely do have a pretty good sized group. I mean, there are pretty good sized groups all over the field. It's pack racing galore now.
Brad McCombs spun in the Roger chicane, late in the Roger chicane. He's actually beached on a curb now. I think he may have to tow. I think he's stuck.
Into the grass, goes across the track. Luckily, Christopher Newby doesn't pick him up.
Yeah, he's stuck.
He's stuck on that.
That's some bad luck
how
there.
You want to spend your race. Sasha Kempter's into the dirt.
He got off. He finally got off.
Lucky to save it there by Sasha Kempter. That's a tricky corner to go off in. But well held on to.
So McCombs alive with really no damage, but man, yeah, I mean, he probably lost 30 seconds there, something like that. So that's a killer. Oh, spin by Real there on the second Lesmo. Yeah. Looks like that was really close. He's back on the track though on the inside. Luckily, it's safer than the outside.
That's Real.
Came pretty close on the rejoin there, but it was all right.
All right, so if we look further down now, this is Andrew Neri, and he is in 8th place with Paul Skip in 7th as well. They really fell down the order. They were up there with the front pack, but if they can work with Zach Nurnberger there and bring that pack back up, I don't think they'll have any problem. Tyler Langenberg, who started 7th, is now up to 5th, and he's in that front pack almost.
Yeah, right now, Steve Coubet and Daniel Barnett are two guys who are up 10 spots. Craig Willis up 12 as far as over. Oh, and two guys off, John Kelly and I think it was Sasha Kempter, maybe. Incident in Parabolica. Kelly's car was totaled. That's a tow.
De La Sala and Kelly were involved in that.
And McDonald's pitting as well. Jeff McDonald's got some damage to the front. Cool looking paint McDonald's got there, though. I like it.
Let's see if we could take a look at that. McDonald, he is. There he is. Looks like Daniel Barnett.
Yeah, similar. His looks like a hollow Pokemon card or something, though.
It does. Very reminiscent there. If we take a look here, Daniel Barnett is in the other rainbow car. We might mix them up a little bit tonight. They both have the same Ferrari. Not quite exact, but not too far off each other either.
We did miss it, but Dustin Dos Weiss had a pretty big accident on the exit of the Ascari chicane, and has now retired the car. So it looks like Daniel Hingley's having a connection issue, so he looks like he's been trying to get in. But those are the only two that we've got completely out from the race. But a couple guys with some big crashes and having to tow.
Yeah, Brad McCombs, after his spin, he's all the way down in 18th overall. Of course, last, and oh no, Marcus Osborne is last in his class, but Brad penultimate.
Speaking, you almost got Osborne almost got in a wreck right there, right when you said his name.
I just gotta stop talking. I'm quite the commentator's curse here, but the race goes on, and Nick Terrell is gonna be watching his mirrors, as that's Terry Cowger Jr. right on his bumper. They did a lot of bump drafting at Daytona, and I think they're going to do some more here for sure.
Yeah, we didn't catch it, but I am wondering what had Paul Skip drop all those spots. I mean, he's there behind Zach Nuremberger, who has a pretty large gap to Langenberg in front.
This is Mr. Christopher Craig. Too much.
Similar to how we saw Dos Weiss wreck earlier, yeah. But I just wonder if there's a NASCAR kind of element to the strategy. You know, Skip was running at the front for a good amount, and just like real life Daytona, you don't want to be the guy that's at front for the entire race. That is a killer for your fuel strategy. So, but yeah, we didn't catch what dropped him back there, but we do have another retirement there, Michael De La Sala.
Yeah, he was involved in that incident around the time that John Kelly crashed. And
Paul Skip spinning in the Rozier chicane. He's on the outside there in the sand.
Well, we didn't catch what brought him back the first time, but this is definitely going to drop him down the order, as Christopher Newby's in the dirt a little bit back there. But similar to what Brad McCombs did, just on the other side of the track.
Yeah, luckily no damage to that car, but some more lost spots and some more lost time, and most importantly, out of the draft.
Yeah, he might have a little bit of a damage from...
Chris Richards off, former leader off in the Ascari chicane.
There he is.
Lost like 5 spots there, 5 or 6 spots.
And that's also the that orange yellow Martini car there, the BMW that he almost tapped on his rejoin, but they made it out all right.
Yeah, he just got spooked. Vihil in front, just a little more conservative on the brakes, and I think it caught Chris Richards by surprise. He locked it up, nearly spun, went off deep into the chicane.
All right. Well, they are still going again, and no major
Parabolica,
injuries.
something with Chris Newby and Paul Skip there. Paul Skip's rear wing is off the car now.
Oh.
Skip coming around, and Newby
So
was
there.
on the outside.
There was original contact.
That's Chris
with
Newby.
Neri. No, Neri was in there as well.
Oh, correct. Yes.
So he spins. Neri hits him. Neri drives off, and then Skip comes.
Well,
in contact.
Newby spins because he hits John Kelly in front, and then John Kelly hits Andy Neri, and then he's just kind of in the way. He kind of started to rejoin, but I think it was over for Paul Skip anyway. He was just there on that outside of that turn. So, that's rough to see.
You hate to see a race end. Well, it's not over, but a race be very damaged. So we've got a message.
Enough of these incidents, and then you're racing for the people who didn't wreck, which could be pretty decent.
Yeah, it's could be a lot of attrition here tonight. We saw a lot of it in the Daytona 24, that's for sure. And let's see here. This is Travis Bell. He's been told by by the chat to just use his nitrous. So hopefully he can use his nitrous and catch up to Richard Curry, who's about 4 seconds ahead of him.
Yeah, it's got an interestingly large gap, I would say, given, and he's not far back. It's not like he's like trailing the entire field. He's just surprisingly far back and far in front of anyone, which I kind of didn't expect gaps to form of that size, at least at the front or in the midfield. It's just so early in the race, not even 15 minutes in.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if there's maybe some sort of those incidents that they had to avoid, the spinning LMP2s, that kind of stuff that may have just lost them that slipstream, and then they couldn't re-get it. They couldn't get back into it and catch back up.
Definitely the front of the GT3 field is not spread out. Webb, Paletti, Claybaugh, Boyle, Curry, those guys have been right next to each other, trading spots, and actually Webb is now in front of all of the GT3s now, trying to follow up Travis Bell and be the second guy to win the overall as an AM.
That'd be quite the achievement, especially to have two of those set in a row. I'd be interested to see that.
Newbie's stuck behind that entire group now after that recovery. Like we said, we get in the pits pretty quick, and he's got to try to weave his way through this long line of GT3s with basically no space between each other.
Yeah, there is not a lot of space at all, especially when you're coming down this straight. Now, interestingly, Nick Terrell and Terry Kelger Jr. with their bump drafting still haven't been able to really get ahead there of Chris Richards.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if they're actually trying to. I think there is obviously they've worked together in the past. Like I said, drafting is of course a huge thing in NASCAR for bump drafting and drafting for not just speed but for fuel savings. And we know that there's some sort of tactical element to that. So I think that they're just running their own race and maybe are even trying to do like a one whole pit less than everyone else or something like that.
I mean, it's very possible. We do have to watch for pit
Actually, he crashed.
Let's take.
That was on the exit of Ascari, just like we saw Dos Fias and I can't remember who the other one was, but yeah, just hitting that spin to the left. Didn't have the tank slapper as the previous incident we saw, but just drifting out drifting out too far.
Yep, too much steering input, and
Yep.
that'll do. And he does have a fast repair, so he's not out of the race, but he's gonna have a job to do once he gets out of the pits with that fresh car.
Yeah, I mean, he would not be the only person with an incident, like I said earlier. There's a lot of guys fighting now for having one big crash and having to already come in for their fast repair. Certainly off of the pit schedule, but we'll see how they can do, and if they're able to make up some spots, as we probably will see some more incidents.
Oh, I'm sure we'll see some more incidents. It's we're only 16, 17 minutes into this race, and we've seen plenty, so the incidents won't stop. It's a long time to keep that focus. It's not a super mentally taxing track, but it's definitely not the easiest track we've ever run.
Well, and I think it's actually interesting is that none of the incidents we're seeing are coming on the oval part, the weird part that no one's familiar with. It's all just in the normal, run of Monza, in the Ascari chicane, the Rosia chicane, a couple things in Parabolica. So all things that people should be very familiar with, but still giving people some problems. We do have some people definitely having a pretty high amount of incidents so far, but for the most part, everyone's pretty good. There's still a lot of people with 0, a lot of people with 1 or 2. There's not many options or places to get an off track here except for the 2 Lesmos. So other than that, which it is easy to invalidate a lap, but you're not going to like pick up a bunch on one lap usually.
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky to be on the edge here in Ascari and not get the off track there. Right through that second turn where Craig Rose just went, that right-hander. That is a tricky one for off tracks, but other than that, there's not a lot of invalidations.
Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that. Oh, Vahil loses it in Rogia from the lead. Loses the lead to now McLaughlin is now the leader of the LMP2 class.
Yeah,
I hope he doesn't get beats there too. Okay, he's all right.
Everybody's gonna get by. Not everybody, but that whole pack. So now he's down to 8th. He's down 7 positions from where he started in pole.
I just wonder if maybe the tires are getting just super duper cold with running straight for so long that by the time they get down there, they have issues on the or I guess not the tires but the brakes. They haven't used the brakes in like a minute and a half.
Yeah,
so it's a pretty heavy braking zone in the Rogia for sure.
Yeah, those tires are under a lot of load going through those bankings, so I wouldn't call them super cold, but the brakes definitely, because you don't need those when you're flat out. And then you get on them and you realize you don't have quite the braking performance you thought you'd have. Now we'll get into that later when we talk to Zach Nurnberger, and hopefully this time it's an in-car interview and not a post. Oh, as he almost crashes into the pit wall there. Looks like. Anyways, so we'll talk to him in a little bit and find out what he's thinking through this race.
So, yeah, Don McCloy enjoying his run at the front. Now he's first time he's been running at the front. We've had a number of guys doing it, and Tyler Langenberg is there right in that pack in third. He started, what, like 7th and has made his way up to that leading pack. We saw him and Terry Cowger Jr. both qualify out of normal race position, and he's up 4 and Cowger's up 6.
Yeah, Cowger in 11th when he started. Very unlike him, the man that won, I think 8 out of 13 races last season. So he's got the talent, but it's just an off race for him tonight.
Well, I mean, it's a weird one, certainly, but he still has a lot of chance. I mean, he is only 2.5 seconds off of the lead, and he's there with a group. He's not alone. He's got a group doing some pushing and some drafting.
So we'll have to keep an eye on him. Of course, we still have an hour and 20 minutes to go, so, you know, there's a lot of action to come, my friends. Do not fret.
Yeah, Terry still didn't have a win on the season, and just very interesting sitting in 5th in the points. Tyler Langenberg is, of course, our leader, and then Nick Terrell and Paul Skip very close to each other. They're in 2nd. So we obviously saw some issues for Paul Skip earlier. He lost his entire wing, so he's a minute back from the lead, and looking like Tyler Langenberg has a pretty good chance of increasing his lead on the rest of the field. Although Nick Terrell certainly close enough to do something about it.
Yeah, I would not put any bets down on this race until like the final, final second. That's when you want to place your bets, because this race is so uncertain. There are so many different factors, and it's just going to be a very, very close finish, I'd say, as well.
Oh, a crash by Jeremy Barber. Terry Kiger Jr. crashing in Parabolica. Nick Terrell luckily able to avoid it, but that's probably going to be going into the pits for Terry there.
Yes, and that's also, I believe, Kube.
That was Jeremy Barber there.
Barber, okay. So there's 2 Fords out there tonight. Wow.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I think Terry got a little spooked. Barber was on the outside of that turn, kind of rejoining. He had moved out of the way for Chris Richards in front, but ultimately just lost it kind of mid-turn and then hit the inside wall.
All right, so that's Nick Terrell there.
He was able to avoid it going off into the sand. That was smart rather than just trying to stay on the track. You know, just avoid it. Just take the 1X.
But I'm not seeing what happened here for a replay for Barber and Cowger Jr. Unfortunately.
You can trust me.
Yes. So we won't get to see it, but our wonderful storyteller is Zach Purcell. Tells us how it is.
Yeah, we have pretty much everyone at the front of the field has obviously made up some spots. Again, Adrian Garcia Vigil was on pole, and then had that wreck, and he just retired the car, and Marcus Osborne also retired the car. So a couple quick LMP2 retirements. But Owen McLaughlin, his time at the front, had it for a couple laps now with McCloy and Langenberg in tow there, literally.
Yeah. Now, let us take a look at the GT3 pack, because these leaders, they have been pretty close to each other for the past 23 minutes. I know the LMP2s have as well, but I mean, there's a lot more of them in this one big line, I think, or at least it feels like it to me.
It's been this group the entire. It's this group of 5 guys, and Paul Boyle's fallen a little bit off. He can definitely get there with the draft, but generally they've been like side by side, nose to tail, through all of these corners, just constantly swapping positions. It's almost not even worth saying. We've had Boyle in the front. I know Curry, Webb, and Claybaugh all have. I don't know if Paletti himself has actually been at the front of the field of this little group here, but they've all been in the running, and Travis Bell is just continuing to fall back. He's 5 seconds back because he just doesn't have anyone to draft with. He doesn't have any buddies right now. Keith Roycroft is well off the back of him. He's too far back to work with, and those guys in the top 5 just continue to work together and pull away.
Yeah, and as you said, Paul Boyle being able to get back up in the draft. Look at him. He is right back up there on the back of that pack. A little bit further as they go through Curva Grande, but I mean, from the 7, 8 tenths he was, now it's down to 3. So he's not doing too poorly for himself. But how about this little bump draft in there between Daniel Barnett and Craig Willis?
Yeah, Craig Willis is up 15 spots overall. A lot of guys up over 10. I mean, again, it's partly due to some retirements that we've already had, but I mean, just listing the guys who have already made up more than 10 spots: Trevor Dyer, Dan Coleman, Ken Stanley, Leonardo Elijah, Daniel Barnett, Craig Willis, and Steve Kube. All of those guys more than 10 spots made.
Yeah, so a lot of great races going on for some people. We have had a few retirements, including Adrian Garcia Vahil and Marcus Osborne, who were running. Marcus wasn't as high up, but Adrian Garcia Vahil was our pole sitter.
Yeah, and Dustin Dos Weiss was doing pretty well in the GT3 field as well, and was the first retirement that we had. So it's a bummer to see, but still quite a lot of people in this field right now. 36 running.
Yeah, and let's take a look. This is the onboard of Don McCloy as he chases down Owen McLaughlin. They are about to get on the power for one more straight, take a turn, and then they're going to be on the power for a long time. So we'll get to see the onboard drafting action. And if we take a look directly behind, this is Tyler Langenberg chasing down Don McCloy.
Yeah, and I guess thinking about that as well is that, as you say, this is the braking zone before they get back on throttle. It's not a big braking zone either. So the last heavy braking zone they have is that Ascari chicane back there, and it really is like a minute and a half of on throttle, freezing cold brakes.
Yeah, if we take a look at now, we're at 26.54 going into this oval banking. Wow, it's up there, man. That is tall. So 26.54 is the time on the clock when they go and they exit the corner. And let's take a look, see how long it is before they get on the brakes. They're all running nice single file. I don't think anybody's going to go for a move here. They are just settling in and taking in that fuel saving, letting Owen McLaughlin punch a hole in the atmosphere, and they can drive right through.
Yeah, if you wondered how how it compares to how it was supposed to be used, that oval banking there, it's a 21-degree banking. It was designed for a speed at the time of 112 miles an hour. I think they're going a little bit faster than 112.
I'd say so. I'd say we're going more like 200-ish. Maybe a little bit less.
I'd say they hit the LMP2s hit, some of them have hit over 300 on their max speed for 300 kph. Sorry, I don't have it in miles per hour, my bad.
But anyways, so it was about 28 minutes when they went into the braking zone. So that's over a minute of on throttle. And that's going to cool your brakes right down. Let's take a look here at our top speeds. We'll actually take a look from the cockpit here of Nick Paletti as we do this.
Yeah, tops. I mean, all the LMP2s. I mean, some of them up into 312, and then the GT3s are very close to 300. 297, I think, is the highest I see, but right on the edge of that for sure.
Yeah. So let's see here. Apparently 258 from Chris Richard or Don McCoy. That's not true, but I do believe the 208 mile an hour that Owen McLaughlin hit on that banking there. Marcus Osborne in the chat saying he crashed. We did see that, unfortunately. Paul Boyle in the GT3 is hitting 200 miles an hour as well, so there's not a huge speed difference between the LMP2s and the GT3s on this banking.
Yeah, I mean, for kph, about 10 kph in the stuff I'm looking at here. So still, we're seeing them get by really easily because, I mean, it's still a useful, with how long they're running straight, it's a useful pace difference. But yeah, look at they're 3 wide there on the south banking there.
Some brave drivers.
That entrance scares me so much. It's terrifying seeing the suspension unload there while they're going so fast.
It sure is. The ending of that banking there, that little jump is I mean, if we had a little bit less downforce, we might see some flying.
Well, yeah, I mean, you wouldn't believe how many times I had just horrific wrecks there with the Lotus 49, because I mean, it actually did get air, like full unloading of the springs. So that's why it scares me a little bit. But everyone's handling it pretty well. Looks like it's not too much of an issue. Only mental.
Only mental, but you know, we could be playing Microsoft Flight Simulator. That might be kind of cool. E4A goes airborne.
Sasha Kempter, our next retirement that we've got. And yeah, Kube losing it there in Rogia, but looks like he's all right.
My good old...
Not the first.
Good old commentator's curse there. So this is Chris Newby here. Is in the slipstream there, Paul Skip. If you couldn't tell, Paul Skip always has his black and gold John Player special. That's how you can spot him.
Both guys involved in the same incident and had to pit early to get that fixed. And then Nick Terrell behind the two, so he was up in 5th. Again, he's there with Terry now. Obviously, some scheming going on, because I do know that Nick was talking about the Long Beach race, and he, I believe in the LMDH, and he was able to do that in a single stint by doing some clever fuel saving. So that's got to be happening here, because he's had the opportunity to be much higher than where he's at. He's still in 9th, and he's purposely ceding pace, I think, to have some fuel saving.
Yeah, both John Kelly and Steven Shepard doing the same thing. You can see them and hear them lifting off as they follow Donovan Johnston into Curva Grande.
Now that with Terry being dragged along there by Nick, that group of 4 is all pretty close now. So they're running there in that mid to back field of the LMP2s, but certainly now that you've got a squad of them, they can work together and try to catch up in front. The gap, well, Chris Richards kind of running alone, but the gap then would be 20 seconds up to Mark Dillon Jr., who just pit. So Mark Dillon Jr. into the pits, Zach Nurnberger into the pits. 32 minutes in. If that's the end of the fuel tank, then that's that's wild.
I don't think it's that early, but I mean, a minute on.
They've hit together,
throttle.
the same one, you know.
Well, it could be some Pony Express insider strategy, but I don't know. What did we do at Le Mans? About 40 minutes?
Yeah.
So this is about a minute on throttle.
Possibly.
Le Mans about, 45 seconds, 40 seconds? I don't know.
So Nurnberger comes out just behind that group. So actually, if that was a strategy call, that was perfectly played, because he was able to come out of the pits and then still have a group to draft from, provided that he's able to get up to those guys. So that may have worked out really well for him. And Mark Dillon Jr. was in the pits longer and is kind of off the back of that group and too far back to make a move. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. He was further back coming into the pits. They were just in the pits at the same time. But yeah, good play by Nürnberger here. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Yeah, an interesting strategy for sure. I'll have to keep an eye, see what the rest of the field does. It seems very early to me, but I don't know.
Yes, so we are, what are we looking at? As far as the pits, we had a few people actually. I guess we didn't.
There they go.
Yeah, we somehow missed. Nick Terrell and Terry Cocker Jr. had both pit at the same time, as well as Andrew Neri.
Interesting.
And then yeah, like I said, so Tyler Langenberg staying out though.
Could it not be because of their incident there in Parabolico where they all spun?
Well, but Terrell didn't get any damage from it. So that was more than 2 laps ago. Terry pit again with Nick Terrell.
Interesting. So a lot of confusing pit cycles going on here as the whole field comes into the pits. Very
I'm interested that Tyler Langenberg seems to be one of the few guys that was able to keep it going without having to come to the pits. We saw McLaughlin and McCloy both come in at the same time, but Langenberg's running down the home stretch for the second time. Now I can't really say it's the same straight on the left straight.
On the second half of the straight, I guess. But yeah, this is quite an
definitely everyone's out of fuel. That's for sure.
Yes, they are for sure now. Even Cowger and Terrell and Skip, with all their fuel saving, bump drafting, they're still gonna pit with everybody else. So interesting. Well, they haven't pit with everybody else. They pit early, but you get the idea.
Well, yeah, it doesn't mean that they necessarily were running out. I mean, obviously Terry was, and Terry had come into the pits for repair just like a few laps before that. So I think that it is also possible that he had not come in for those repairs. But either way, again, talking about NASCAR strategy, you have to pit when everyone else does. And I actually wonder if this hurts Tyler Langenberg a little bit for staying out, because he this entire lap he doesn't get any drafting, he's not towing anybody, no teamwork, and I wonder to see, he's probably going to be coming in the pits this lap, if he ends up quite a bit back from that group that he was with the entire time, because they're working together right now, although they do have some traffic in front of them.
Yeah, he might.
So yes, Langenberg into the pits right now.
He might actually lose quite a lot of time now that I think about that. I'll have to keep an eye on him. I believe he was 4th area before the pit cycle.
Yeah, he was with the top 4 there. And again, I mean, in NASCAR Daytona, if you pit alone, it's a death sentence. There's no recovering from that outside of a yellow flag, which we have none of course, in this race or this series. So if you fall all the way back, it's really tough to. And then a spin there.
That's Mark Dillon Jr.?
Yes, that was Mark Dillon Jr. there. Just a slight spin back on the road now. So Langenberg exiting the pits now.
Here he is. He's gonna get up to speed now.
Oh, he's ahead. Yeah, the traffic actually must have messed up those guys enough behind. They did have a lot of guys to get through. They got to run and start. It's not going to take them long to get up to him, I don't think. But still, not a disaster for Langenberg as we had kind of feared.
Yeah, I mean, he even gained. He was at that back of the pack there, that 4th place area. Now he's 2 seconds ahead of everybody, 2.5. So interesting.
Nick Terrell splits that GT3 group in the middle there. there was some communication there to make sure that everyone saw it, but that was pretty dramatic looking.
Ooh.
Wow.
Terry Calgary Jr. Really running that high line.
He knew where the camera was. He was giving us a show.
That was quite the I really like that. I love those up and close camera with the roar of the cars. So it's another favorite of mine.
Yeah, we have a long way to go still to see what's going to happen with the fuel strategy. Certainly, seeing when people pit may be an indication of how well they've done the fuel, but it's not the end-all, be-all. So it's when we see that last pit, really, that's when we know what they've been doing as far as fuel savings. And still, though, Tyler Langenberg was able to fuel save quite a lot. No one else took it as long as he did on that stint, and up 6 spots to be in first. And then for the GT3s, we're still looking at that same squad. I mean, every lap it's a different guy leading. It was Claybaugh at the line last time. He's now currently in third. As we're talking about overall, he's leading the pro field, and Richard Curry's ahead. So it's just constantly switching between those guys, but it's definitely them who are in the primary conversation. Jeff McDonald is there, but he had that wreck early and is on a different fuel strategy, and I don't know if it takes him out of contention with these guys or not.
I don't know. Again, the only way to tell is to watch and see, because there are so many different variables in this race. It's going to be impossible to track it down until the very end.
Yeah, he's about to start his 12th lap, McDonald. He's right there. I mean, he's just a second back from and he's almost spins right when I say that. So saved it, but almost lost it in Parabolica there. Not a second back from Paul Boyle anymore.
Interesting. Now, we are only on lap 17 after such a long 40 minutes. That doesn't tell you how long this track is, even with the full throttle for a minute. Well, I guess actually being full throttle for a minute does tell you how long it is.
Yeah. Shadow thing that it does there is so bizarre.
Good old
and then Belletti trying to move his way. Oh, wow. Curry has actually got a huge gap. I noticed Belletti moved his way ahead of Webb right now, but Curry's well ahead. I'm not really sure how that even happened. I mean, they'll catch up, but I don't know how he pulled that gap.
Could have been another pit strategy. Take a look here. Curry pits 2 laps ago and Webb 1 lap ago. So not a huge difference there in the strategies, but...
Well, no, I mean, they were together as a group, and then just suddenly Curry, through that last lap, pulled ahead by, a second or two. But they've started to catch up. But going side by side, as long as they're safe with each other, not crashing each other out, it still can be faster. You get a little bit of a side draft going, some less aero than the guy that's all the way in the front has to deal with.
Yes, it is.
It's not something that we usually have to address, side drafting in GT3 cars, but it's enough of an effect because of the nature of this track. So it is still something to mention. But yeah, the big group of LMP2s there as well. They're in the midfield.
Yeah, they are. Let's see. We've got a group here. Owen McLaughlin, Chris Richards in second and third, and then further back we have the 6, 7, 8, 9 complex of Skip, Calgar, Newby, and Nürnberger. This is what we're seeing right here on screen, and that is where the closer cars on track are. Although if we take a look back here all the way in 17th, Stephen Shepard and Donovan Johnston are holding it down pretty nicely for the backstretch battles here.
Yeah, they got a pretty big gap in front of them, so they know to work together. Not for class, but Steve Kube is, Trevor Dyer, sorry, is the guy. They got like 30 seconds to him, so they have a lot to work, but they know that it's not about their own positions right now. If they work together, they can certainly try to make up that gap, because Trevor Dyer doesn't have anyone next to him on track right now helping push him along or anything.
No, he does not. But These guys certainly do. Let's take a look on board here. Let's take a look at Christopher Newby. That way we could see both Nürnberger and Kauger. And they are side by side. And Nürnberger is now ahead. Dylan Jr. is in the pits. Look at that slingshot, though, from Christopher Newby. Slingshot mode engaged, and he's now up to that front of that pack there. Wow.
But Terry's pushing Zach. And, yep, Zach's already going to be ahead with that push. I mean, just look at the effect.
What a slingshot that was. Oh, and who is that? That is one of them. That's Richards.
Chris Richards.
Who was up in the front, is now looped around. And I think
it was in third,
as well. Is that... Did I see another LMP2, a black one? No, that's Jeremy Barber. That was the black car.
Yeah, Owen McLaughlin. Chris Richards hit his teammate. They came up on some GT3 lapped traffic, just some miscommunication with which way the LMP2s were supposed to go by. And actually, McLaughlin got it slowed down enough. He didn't make a big collision, and then Richards just didn't see it coming at all and slammed into the back of his teammate, taking them both out. So we saw Richards there, but McLaughlin, I think, had already towed. And then, yeah, it was the GT3 was Jeremy Barber. So that's that black car, that GT that we saw further down in the sand.
Well, that'll do it. That'll definitely hurt your race there, especially as teammates. That's not what you want to see. That's Spain 2016 remnants there.
Yeah, so that promotes Nick Terrell up to P3. He's got a weird gap in front of Nürnberger right now. He's not really doing any teamwork, but Don McCloy and Tyler Langenberg, the two guys, at the front, although McCloy's definitely a little bit off of Tyler right now. But a very interesting little fact here is that Tyler Langenberg, Nick Terrell, Zach Nürnberger, Terry Kauger Jr., and Chris Newby, 5 of our top 6, they're all up exactly 6 spots in this race.
Interesting.
Qualifying didn't matter.
Let's take a look then. Zach Nürnberger, in celebration of him being in 4th and in a tense battle, what do you say we have a conversation with him?
Yeah, it's certainly some teamwork more than a battle, but no less tense.
All right, let's bring on Mr. Nürnberger.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. Let's see if you could keep it on track this time as we talk to you. So,
yeah,
that was quite the pit cycle. You might have some insider information. What's going on with the pit strategy?
So I'll have you know that starting the race, it looked like I was on track for 2.99 stops. So that's 2 pit stops, running out the tank to the last drop every stop. I think me and Mark, when we were in like 4th and 5th, were the last people. Anyone before me and Mark that stopped might have to make a 3rd stop or do some crazy fuel saving. So I know you guys have all the data on the overlays, so I don't know, that's something to look for. Those guys will be there to save fuel or might have to stop extra. But man, I think I've had multiple laps where I've been 4th and 9th on the same lap. It's just I don't know what's going on.
That pit cycle definitely worked out well for you. As soon as you came out of the pits, just in touch of a group. I've been talking a lot about how this is somewhat similar to NASCAR Daytona strategy, where you need to have a group, and if you're on your own, it's probably over. So that was a very well timed pit.
Yeah, I've
okay, you survived. Didn't spin this time.
I'll tell you what. I was talking with Mark and some of the other guys. These are the hottest, greasiest tires I've ever had on a car. I think they came off the car at 250 to 260 Fahrenheit, which is just stupid. I don't even think they were that hot in Daytona. But so yeah, I mean that's just that exhibit A right there. But yeah, that first pit cycle, I felt a couple tenths of a gallon short just trying to draft off Nick, and I couldn't catch him. And I was telling Mark, Keith, and those guys, I was like, the first pit stop's gonna be the great equalizer, because you might go in at the pack and come out with no one, or vice versa. And I got really lucky that I found someone.
I have to imagine that you're also experiencing some really cold breaks going into that Rogia chicane after we timed like a minute and a half since the last hard braking zone. Is that something you're seeing? We've seen a lot of LMP2s do a flat spin there on the brakes.
You know what? Actually, not really, because the first lap you do, yes, but the tire heat, it just retains so much like ambient tire temperature that your brakes actually stay pretty warm. It's the rear end under braking when you're turning in. If you get down in the gears too fast, because your rear end is those rear tires are doing like 250 Fahrenheit, and so the brakes actually aren't bad because they stay warm from the flaming tires. It's just the compliance in the rear just isn't there.
Interesting. All right, so that solves that mystery. And we've also gone over our pit stop. So what else did we want to ask you? I feel like there was one more thing.
Oh. I don't remember if there was.
Oh man, I don't know. I'm sure there's so much going on everywhere. I mean, I can tell you how many times I was like a second or two clear of people, and then all of a sudden Nick Terrell leads like a 4-car train steaming past me 20 miles an hour faster, and I've lost 4 spots. It's just, I don't know, man. There's not enough mirrors to look in at this place.
All right, well, we'll bring you back in if we think of it, but other than that, we'll let you go back to focusing, and we'll mark this down as a successful in-car interview.
I know. Took a while. Did have a little loopsy, but, making progress there, so good to talk to you guys.
See you, man. Okay.
I don't know if I'll go so far as saying successful. I think what we've successfully proven is that you can't do an interview and completely focus on driving at the same time. He didn't wreck, so we have successfully prevented him from wrecking. However, he did nearly lose it there in Parabolica for sure. He's lucky there's a lot of runoff.
It's okay. He's a pro. He's up to 3 interviews now, so he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he and Terry certainly working together. I've been surprised to see them not really making any ground on Nick Terrell ahead. Terrell's 3 seconds ahead of them, but then he's 6 seconds back on McCloy, who has certainly closed up to Langenberg, but they're not quite nose to tail or anything like that. Yeah, Kube's wing all bent up there, but he's still running all right. He's up 11 spots from where he started.
Yeah, somebody sent a video of a car, and the wing rotates and kind of angles itself. Oh, so it was Zach. He sent a video of a car where the wing rotates and angles itself as it drives in the corners. Fortunately, I think Steve...
Just one direction.
I think Steve's got the idea, but the execution isn't quite there.
That's the direction you want for the oval,
It is.
Leaning to the right. Yeah, the Danish car manufacturer Zenvo, the TSR, has an active rear wing that responds to steering angle. So it's and the throttle and brake input as well. So it's a pretty wild, creepy thing to see. But Steve Kube's got half of that going for him right now.
Well, let's take a look up further then. This is Nick Paletti.
And Chloe's caught up to Langenberg through the Scar chicane through some traffic, but actually nearly lost it on the exit. But has now made it, it was sub 1 second, and then he got a little loose, and now it's just over 1.
This is sub 1 second here. Christopher Newby, Paul Skip. It's sub 1/10 actually. Oh, never mind. As they go through Curva Grande.
They have to spread out a little bit in Curva Grande just to, if you were to try to bump draft there, it's probably just going to send them off into the sand. So we've noticed that, stay really close through that straight and then kind of back off from each other a little bit through Curva Grande because you're coming up to that chicane anyway. It's not like you can follow nose to tail through that part.
Well, I've seen some pretty close racing in terms of following distance in the Porsche Cup cars, that's for sure, but not quite in these LMP2 cars.
I'm not exactly sure what happened, but Jonathan Webb, who was in that group of 5 for the GT3s, he's just completely fallen off the back. There may have been a minor mistake that we didn't catch in one of these chicanes or something, but he's 6 seconds back, 5 seconds back from Paul Boyle. Those top 4 guys, which is Richard Curry and the 3 Doge Squad guys, all still very close, but Webb just kind of alone. He's got 5 seconds ahead to Boyle, but then he still got 6 seconds back to Travis Bell, who Travis Bell, other than probably dealing with some lapped traffic, has had a very lonely race. He has not been next to anybody for the entirety of this. And then, again, the guy behind him, Keith Roycroft, very similar. He's 6 seconds ahead and 8 seconds behind.
Yeah, he's just kind of cruising around, cruise control kind of race. But if he keeps it like that, it'll be a nice third place for him to complete his record of never finishing off the podium. But I just saw a stranded car there in the that's Nick Carroll
and then
as well.
as we see, yeah.
So let's take a look. That's the car that I saw. That's Trevor Dyer tapping the barrier. Not too bad. But, then we also saw this man here doing a little loop-de-loop on track.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can find that.
It was on the exit of the Rochia chicane. We saw Paul Skip and Brad McCombs both have almost identical errors there, just going a little wide.
And there he goes. But luckily, he keeps it out of any damage, any harm's way. And
Unfortunately, has to do a 3-point turn to get around, though.
He did his driver's ed K-turn there, making sure he uses his blinkers each time he moves his wheel. Anyways,
Still in 5th. Yeah, he was in 3rd when he had crossed the line previously. So
here's Tom Atchity into Parabolica, and rear end just loops around on him. Looks like he's okay though. Wow.
That was the leaders right there. That was Langenberg and McCloy.
And he puts it in the wall with a slight tap. No visual damage.
Arrow into the pits.
So
I don't think he's damaged, but he's going to the pits regardless.
That time already, is it? Okay.
Let's see. He last pit 11. This was 11 laps on that stint. So
it's about that time.
Harry's in the pits too, so they've been talking to each other for sure.
They did a lot less bump drafting this stint than last stint, I think. So seems like a reasonable time to pit. Nary's in the pits as well. Dyer, Shepard.
And Nary had also gone 11 laps.
That is Claybaugh into the wall in Ascari.
Oh yeah, that is. He's got that going straight, but it's not driving straight. He's got really bad damage to the front right, and that's going to be. He's going to need to immediately fix that.
He definitely is.
This is only 7 laps into his stint.
Let's see here.
Oh, and he spins in Parabolica too. Yeah, the car is just it's just wrecked. He's so close to the pits though. He's trying to make his way there.
Reminds me of that clip from the Daytona 24. Okay, so that is what we missed on lap 23. That's
Nary?
why that's Nary and Shepard. That's why they're in the pits. I believe that was a very slow-going car there. That was the Marlboro. Yes. So we saw Trevor Dyer stranded. We looked at Nick Terrell, and as we left, he went and he rejoined the track, and that forced Steven Shepard to go around him, who then lost control of the car. Steve Kube makes it by. John Kelly makes it by. But the... yeah.
Donovan Johnson very lucky to avoid it at the front as well.
Yeah, so that is the...
Shepard airborne there.
It's quite a crash.
Yeah, I mean, if you check like the onboard, I mean, like the way that Curva Grande is not a real tight turn or anything, but it's enough of a turn, and there's those trees and the wall and stuff that you can't see that coming around. So that would have been a shock to all those guys as soon as they came around, and nothing Shepard or Nary could really do there. But good by a couple guys to avoid that. John Kelly and James Foreman, 2 guys deftly avoiding some carnage that they see right in front of them.
Yes, some quick reactions saving their race there. Although, of course, we do have the fast repairs, but losing that time either towing or limping it back to the pits, it's definitely going to set you back in your race.
Yeah, Claybaugh was luckily able to get to the pits. Like you said, the tow is the real killer for sure. It's so much slower than even limping to the pits. But yeah, has definitely lost a lot of spots. He's down 6 overall from where he started, and back there behind Steve Kube, just ahead of Leonardo Elijah for the overall GT3s.
Yes, he is down 63 spots in his class there. And then 6 that you mentioned overall. But out front, still looking at about a 4/10 gap between Langenberg and McCloy. But Nürnberger, who started back in 10th, is now 3rd. And they are 10 seconds ahead, Don McCloy and Tyler Langenberg are, of Zach Nürnberger.
Well, I wonder if Zach feels a little miffed, though, because he got dropped from that strategy conversation, I guess, with Terrell and Calgary. Because, I mean, the reason that Terry Calgary's 47 seconds off the back of Nürnberger is because him and Terrell hit together just 1.5 laps ago. Nürnberger's about to finish the 11th lap of his stint, so he's probably coming up pretty close. And again, it didn't hurt Tyler Langenberg the time that we brought this up last time, but I just wonder if his pace has been hurt during this, alone period here.
Interesting to see if the time where we yanked Mr. Nürnberger out is when they discussed that pit, and he missed that.
Yeah.
Which would be nothing other than sounding about right for our league here. Steven Shepard, you could see him off in the corner of Parabolica there, but he's getting it going again.
Yeah, we just haven't seen anybody be able to join that squad at the top of the GT3s, but now it's been whittled down, of course, to just Boyle, Curry, and Paletti. Jonathan Webb's still not really able to catch up to that group, and then we saw what happened to Aaron Claybaugh. So that helps a couple of these guys behind in position. I mean, a lot of guys up a lot of positions, but just pretty far, like 50 seconds off of this group. They've just been doing such a good job of working together and pushing each other along that just no one else is even in contention right now outside of these guys having an incident like Claybaugh did.
Yeah, I mean, I can't sum it up any better than that, really. It's they're a lot more spread out than they were at the beginning, but
wow, we just caught that there as a sketchy moment for Terry.
Yeah, but our pit stops that are starting to flood in again, I believe we've seen a lot of them, majority of the field, but they could still spruce it up. That strategy that we're seeing develop. Still 40 minutes to go in this race, so we're a little bit over halfway.
Yeah, I think hitting that hour mark probably a good time to take a quick break and get back right before we see some more pits.
Sounds like a plan. We will be right back, my friends. Okay, and back from the pits of the break room, we are here, and we've got about 35 minutes left in this race. So let's do some commentating.
Yeah, we still have our top three at the LMP2 have not pit yet for that second time. So Langenberg will be about to finish his 12th lap. Sorry, McCloy 13th, and Nürnberger's on his 13th, would finish 14. So I would have to imagine he's coming close to needing to pit. Again, we're 27 laps in. So if he took the last 14 laps, which you can pull up right there. If he were to do that, then I would have to think that this would be the one he's coming in, and then we'll really see if it hurt that he has been alone this entire time. Because speaking of the group behind, somehow Nick Terrell caught back up. Him and Paul Skip have been next to each other, and it just seems like making a mistake for these LMP2s is consequence free. Like they're able to just get back up. I don't even know how it's happening. I think it's incidents from others as well. I mean, like, we've seen spins by Skip, Terrell, Cowger, all three of those guys. I mean, we saw Nürnberger go wide a couple times, but he is in the pits now.
Yes, he is. Now, we saw a lot of 12, 10, 11 lap stints, and we've seen that it's possible to run a 14 lap stint. So it seems like these guys are pitting a little bit early.
Yeah, there's for sure. When they pit, it was definitely a strategy call. So interested to see, what it is that they're doing. And I mean, it could be there may be. I would have to think you take all four tires. I mean, the especially the front left is getting beat up. And we heard Zach Nürnberger say that it's just like unbelievable tire temps. So I have to imagine their whole strategy thing is just a fuel thing, not a tire thing at all.
Yeah. And you'd want to take enough fuel so you can take all four tires, but
yeah,
I don't know. I'm not sure what the strategy is in its entirety. I've seen a lot of different things going on here tonight, so I don't know.
Chloe has really closed that gap to Langenberg. We kind of saw him just sitting back in that 1.5, 2, 3 second range. Crossing the line 6/10, now it's down to 4/10, even going through this GP section. So certainly has made this a battle again. We got 32 minutes to go. So, I mean, their current positions mean basically nothing. But this at least may help them just continue to push ahead from the guys behind them. I mean, Nürnberger is quite a bit off. He is like 15 seconds off. But still, doesn't hurt.
It never hurts to be ahead more. That's for sure.
So my overlay here is estimating that we will have 13 laps to go when they cross the line. So basically, I mean, like any pit that we see. Well, okay, so we saw Nürnberger pit there. He had done a 14 lap stint, the one previous. I think that he can make it work to the end of the race as long as he fuel saves the way he was able to in that second stint. But now we have Langenberg and McCloy both into the pits now.
That's the window here of Craig Willis.
Yeah, if you're in VR, that's a crazy sight to look at.
As they back out there, unfortunately. As my mouse is stuck on here. There we go. Alright. So that was a cool view. I like that. Let's take a look at what happened with Jeremy Barber. Just a little bit too much into the chicane there, and he has to get on the brakes.
Staying out of the way of those guys. I don't think McCloy took tires. I never saw his car rise up. I definitely saw Langenberg. They came out at basically the same time. Actually, Langenberg hopped him a little bit there as far as pulling a gap, but I don't think McCloy got tires. I don't know if that was on purpose or not, or if I'm just not seeing it graphically for some reason.
Well, it looks like McCloy's first pit stop was a 35.9, and Cowger and Terrell just took 27.9s. when they pit, a 34.6 for Nürnberger on his first pit, and then Neri, who pit very early with a 27.7 and a 30.5. So we're seeing all different kinds of pit stop times. I'm not really learning anything from this.
Well, and that's the thing is that Langenberg took tires, and his pit stop was exactly the same as McCloy's, 0.3 difference. So it doesn't have anything to do with that. And look at that, Terry Cowger Jr. is now literally on the back of McCloy. So I don't think that they can. I mean, we saw Cowger and Terrell pit 6 laps ago. With 12 to go, they got to pit again, but McCloy doesn't. So that's pretty interesting to see. But yeah, I think McCloy didn't take tires.
Interesting.
If what I'm looking at is right.
Could that be accidental? Surely that's not a strategy.
I mean, that's what I have no idea. Like, I can only think it's either an accident or it's a graphical glitch on my end. I just wasn't seeing the car rise up. But I saw Langenberg's in the air, and I went back and double checked it, and I never saw McCloy's car go up on the jack. So I guess we'll see if that hurts him later on. If that is the case. He's still running there in second with Cowger right behind him, who, again, I believe does have to make another pit stop.
All right, well, here's Foreman, and ahead of him is Craig Willis. We saw this battle earlier, and it's still going on a lap later. And if we look further up the field, this is Jeff McDonald going head-to-head with Rick Hughes. Rick Hughes currently a little bit behind as they go into the Ascar chicane. That's a tricky one. Oh,
wow. Good save.
Rick Hughes just barely keeping on track, but that's going to allow Mr. Christopher Craig to drive by as well. But a better exit for Rick Hughes might help him as they go down to the Parabolica chicane. Not chicane, but you know what I mean.
The extra annoying part is that McDonald's not there in the same strategy. He pit 11 laps ago. He obviously can't make it to the end. These two guys behind can, Hughes and Craig. So those guys are fighting for the positions that they're in right now. McDonald's still gonna have to pit, and he's gonna go well back. And we just see Kenneth Stanley coming to the pits now as well, losing those positions he had temporarily gained there through the pit strategy.
I'm liking these chase cams here tonight. I think they're
I can't see anything.
a great view to show just how close they are. If you take a look at the cockpit view, that's even closer.
But yeah, look at that though. I mean, Nürnberger there close to Skip, but I mean, Cowger is 12 seconds ahead of him, and then Terrell is 4 seconds. So he was at the front of that group when they came into the pit, and then he stayed out. And I do think that it's going to work out for him, because I believe that these guys, they definitely need to pit again. They're almost about to finish lap. You know, they're 7.5 laps in, 11 laps to go. Impossible for them to make it that long. So as long as Nürnberger is able to save some fuel, which Paul Skip comes to the rescue here and is able to help him do that, then this will be a pretty well played strategy by Nürnberger. But we'll see how that all plays out with 25 minutes to go.
Yeah, maybe they've been playing games with us all race, and they really can do a decent amount of laps. Maybe this pit strategy is just here to throw us off. They all collectively agreed to do the most random thing they can.
Yeah, there's definitely been no consensus for this one. And I didn't think there would be much of a consensus in this season regardless, because of the new rules with tires and fuel being done at the same time. But this one has thrown about 10 new wrenches into the works.
By the end of this one, full toolbox. I hope it's Craftsman.
What does that take? That's a wild take. Tom, I'm gonna have to converse about this with you later. Sorry if there's any Craftsman lovers in the comments there, but
Craftsman or
I'm
Snap-on. I'll take either.
But yeah, I'm seeing Nürnberger definitely working on some fuel saving with Skip there, and then Paletti, who I'd said I didn't know if he actually ran at the front at any of these points. He was leading when they came across the line last time, but he's in second. He's actually all the way back in 7th overall for GT3. So I don't know. Let me see if I can figure out what happened to him, or if it was just getting steamrolled. He came into the pits. That's why, of course. So coming out again, so he went then a lap, at least one lap longer than the other guys, and it seems to have affected him a little bit, but he has caught up to Curry through some traffic here. As Calgar and McCloy are continuing to, that's them behind Paletti and Curry as they continue to bump draft each other.
We have a lot of bump drafting going on here. That's for sure. Richard Curry. Good, beautiful paint, but see a little bit of a scratch there on the side of the car. He's had a few incidents for him, but he's still up there running first in class with a 16-second lead, so I'm going to stop talking about him before I mess that up.
Yeah, interesting to see that Owen McLaughlin's still there running the car. He had that big collision with his teammate Chris Richards. Richards retiring the car, but McLaughlin deciding to stay in, and he's actually right behind Brad McCombs. So still has a position that he can gain on track, although, again, they are over a minute and a half off the lead. Hughes has been having a pretty good race. He's actually not up that many spots from the overall. He's only up 4 spots, but it's because he's one of these few guys that qualified well and actually is still up there as well. A lot of the guys who qualified in the back made their way through a lot of the midfield, but he's done well, sitting there in currently, let me see, trying to figure, 6th place for a large GTD AM field.
Yeah, you gotta love to see a good qualifying converted into a very good race. It's just a very joyous occasion when it happens, and it's going well right now for Rick Hughes. It's going well right now for Jeff McDonald, who's up 13 positions, but of course he'll have to pit still. James Foreman has an issue along with John Kelly may be caught up in this. This is Aaron Claybach getting past Paletti. This is James Foreman. Looks like
something's already happened.
Yeah, he's already got some damage, and then he loops it around, and then
he wasn't even close
John
to driving
Kelly,
straight. Shouldn't have done that.
That's Willis
Shouldn't have lit
well.
up the tires like that.
Yeah, so
Kelly
Willis
has,
also,
man. I mean, I even saw him get wrecked in qualifying. He's this is the worst day for John Kelly, no question.
This is gonna be a drop week for the yellow BMW.
Yeah, McDonald coming into the pits now, so gonna lose all the positions. But I mean, has certainly been very fast. I mean, he's had the pace of these front guys at the field, but just had that early incident in the first 10 or 15 minutes, I believe, and it just took him out of the contention for the race. So it's easy to be knocked out so early, but he's still doing well. He's not going to finish poorly.
It is definitely very easy to be knocked out.
Johnston just spinning a little bit. Yeah,
it's as simple as that.
So it was an aggressive spin that he had. And he was stuck on the inside of that for a really long time, but just looks like he got too deep into the corner of Lesmo. Just kind of an early apex, and then the curb just took him out. Nothing that, I mean, Steven Shepard couldn't see it coming, that's for sure.
No, not a lot you could really do in that situation. You're kind of just a passenger.
I think Shepard pretty much got away with it as far as damage, though. It doesn't really look like there's anything wrong with his car at all, actually.
That's always good to hear. I mean, you don't really want to end your race over that, but I mean, slight fender bender, it happens. I watched one earlier today.
So we got McCloy. McCloy's over 3 seconds off of Langenberg now. He's kind of more worried about losing his second place to Terry now than Langenberg, who we didn't think that would, based on where he qualified and just the fact that this one's, quite different than many of the others. We didn't really think he was going to come out ahead. He's the overall points leader. He won in Le Mans. He won in Hockenheim, second in Daytona. It kind of seemed like, okay, this will be a bad race for him. But I mean, if he brings it home, and as long as the fuel's okay, which it looks like it is, then, I mean, this was another really well-run race in quite a different format than the last few races have been.
Yeah, he's doing really well. I mean, nothing out of the ordinary for him. He's a very talented driver. But, yeah, I mean, from 7th to 1st, we have Steve Coubet up 13 positions. Daniel Barnett's up 14. Up 15 is Keith Stanley, along with Dan Coleman, is up 14. And then 10 for Jeremy Barber. So a lot of gainers here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, even just staying in the race, you're already going to get 5 or 6, but a lot of these have been made up on the track as well. So impressive running for all those names you've already mentioned there. And, you know, I mean, it's probably something some of these guys didn't expect if they qualified poorly. And Paletti going wide there, losing both those spots, trying not to impact his teammate there, but getting passed by Richard Curry as well. Although I think they've been, they've been working with Curry this entire time for sure. They've not been like trying to block him out of anything.
Yeah, they've been using him as some draft, and Paul Boyle is back up in front. Aaron Claybaugh, who we saw in the wall not too long ago, is back up to 3rd in class, and only ahead of him for the amateurs is Richard Curry.
This would be a nice race for Paletti, who has finished 3rd in the first 3 races, but has not finished above that. So 3rd, 3rd, and 3rd is 1 point ahead of his teammate there, Paul Boyle, because as we remember, Paul Boyle had a pretty awful Daytona, one that he'll be dropping later. But Claybaugh, who has been Mr. Steady, he was 2nd in Le Mans, 2nd in Hockenheim, 1st in Daytona. Was leading by 6 points, and that's going to go down a little bit, although despite his crash, still sitting in 3rd is going to save him quite a lot in this points battle.
Yeah, Paul Boyle, I mean, other than Daytona, 3 out of 4 wins. Not too bad if you can hang on to it. There's 17 minutes to go now, and I think he's got a pretty decent chance. We'll stop talking about him because we don't want to curse him. We know how that goes on this show. But,
well, I mean, even right now, he's definitely being pressured by Richard Curry for sure. Although they got some traffic, they got Steven Shepard on the outside. They're making their way through. Shepard actually collides with the wall there. Was kind of grinding that wall on the outside, like we saw Terry Calgary Jr. do earlier. With that wonderful camera angle that we had.
Yes, that was a great angle. Anyways, Terry Calgary Jr. seems like he went off track. Let's see what happened here for the Florida man.
Ooh, that was close.
I don't
know if he wants to be called Florida man.
An off track there.
There's a certain connotation to Florida man. Virginia man, whatever, that's fine. Florida man is a very special connotation.
Well, Florida man, I mean, he's doing some sketchy driving there, going off the track there.
Yeah, that's about as wide as you can go in Lesmos without ending your race there. So a little stressful, at least for me, watching it.
Yeah, we can call him Florida man. He's wild.
And Rick Hughes here with Christopher Craig again, and have been next to each other for a lot of this race. I mean, that's what we've seen with a lot of these groups so far. A lot of teamwork.
Tail end of the pit lane.
Yes, so what and then Terry actually did not. So, but yeah, I mean, this looks like it's pretty well run by Nürnberger as long as he's not just burning too much fuel right now. Again, he was next to Paul Skip, but Skip had pit a few laps ago. So Nürnberger's having to do some fuel saving in some solo running, which is certainly a lot harder than being able to just lift and coast through the corners, but still be just as fast as the guy in front of you.
Yeah, it's very interesting that Terry and Nick not pitting around the same time because they've been working together pretty much this whole race. And now, uh-oh. This looks like a scary time up here. That's Owen McLaughlin, and ahead of him is Brad McCombs. Now, I see both of them having some issues, possibly, or are they just going off track? Oh, no! Brad McCombs rounding into the wall. That's what happened with him.
I gotta say, I do love that. I mean, I don't love seeing the wreck. I'm not saying that, but I love the nature of the difficulty of those Lesmo turns because, you know, we have a couple chicanes where, you know, it can be a little forgiving as long as you like bail out. But the Lesmos, if you go wide, it's over. You don't have, you know, the sand is right there. It's not like a pavement runoff, and you know you got to give it some respect. And an hour and a half in, it can be easy to forget that sometimes, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a tricky track, and Lesmos are, in my opinion, my least favorite of the corners here because they're so tricky. It's where I lost my Lotus 79 race, and it's sour corner for me.
Well, in my Lotus 49 race here, again, standing starts on that, I didn't make it to the banking. I got crashed out before I even made it to turn 1. So all of my experience is from practice. Foreman, already, we saw his damaged car earlier, and he'd spun, and it looked like he had still been carrying that damage and finally decided to tow.
That's Kenneth Stanley trying to recuperate from a spin.
Yeah, probably the same thing that Brad McCombs just did, at least from the looks of it.
Just to a lesser extent. Calgary's now into the pit lane about a lap after Terrell.
And then after working together with Calgary, Don McCloy has caught up to about a second and a half to Langenberg ahead. So the game's back on. It was like a 4-second, 5-second gap. It was something large, but closed back up as Nürnberger gets promoted there to P3. With Nürnberger, it's just a question of how's the fuel, because he has obviously a mega gap behind, a mega gap in front. As long as he can finish it, as long as his pit strategy worked out well, this will be a podium for him.
Yeah, he has just about 12 minutes to go, and then he'll see that flying checkered flag, and he'll be able to relax. But until then, we're going to have to see how his strategy can work out for him.
Getting there into the pits as well. I guess, I mean, either the tires weren't an issue, or he did actually take tires. I guess, you know, as long as he finishes here in second, we can ask him in the interview. But as I said, he's been able to catch up. So I have to wonder if that was just an issue on my end.
I don't know. We'll have to take a look. But he's certainly keeping decent pace, unlike somebody who didn't take tires. But we'll have to see. Right now, it's looking pretty good for KFC. If I were them, I would pay Paul Boyle some money for the advertising they're getting for free, as that KFC car has been doing great all night, keeping out in front, and they might bring home the win here tonight over Chick-fil-A, which I heavily disagree with, but
That was really close there. That angle, that camera angle that we were on there, I was on a different one of mine. That did not make it look as scary as it was. Actually, just getting out of the way of those guys, but I don't think that, like, that was figured out at the very last possible second before a big wreck happened there. But yeah, we with the lead, I mean, Paul Boyles continued to stretch it out, and Nick Pletty just falling back a little bit. Not enough that he has to worry about Aaron Claybaugh, but that also looked like there may have been damage before that.
I think it was just a little bit too much grass for there. Craig Willis going through Ascari. This is where Paul Boyle is now.
And Pletty has to get around Ashley here, and then he'll be able to get back and try to chase down Curry again. Curry not for points, but if he's able to get up to Curry, he can maybe slingshot to pass his teammate Paul Boyle. As we've seen, despite the fact that these guys practice together, work together in the first part of the races, they have absolutely no problem with racing each other hard at the end. So I do hope to see that, although he had to slow down again there. Tom actually lost it there in Parabolica. He had to avoid that.
Yes.
I think Paletti can see it coming, and then just make sure that he avoids that. But that was a fun little drift, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's always Tokyo somewhere. So just 10 minutes to go now, not even 9 minutes. And that'll be the checkered flag flying. So it's looking good for Zach Nurnberger, but I could say that in next lap he could pit. So I'm not sure.
We don't have certainly not bad turnouts by most of the top leaders in the GTD AM points. However, Curry and Webb, who this I actually believe this is Webb's only. Oh, he's had a few races. It's just he has not had. He was not at Hockenheim or the previous race. He was at Le Mans. He was at Hockenheim or Daytona. But Travis Bell's the leader, and he's sitting there in third, so he's doing well. Obviously, only a tenth off of Webb there. And then Christopher Craig Keith Roycroft's in second. He's there in the race in fourth. Christopher Craig there in third is in fifth. So actually, the top three are all in order from each other. They're third, fourth, fifth. So doing well. Daniel Hingley, however, is fourth, and he had those connection issues. Didn't even get to start the race. And Rick Hughes is fifth, and he's running in sixth. So kind of a mix of these guys who have been strong this entire season, and actually. Just to mention Richard Curry, our leader, by quite a lot, 20 seconds, is sixth in the points. So that'll jump him up a few positions for sure.
Yeah, it definitely will. Now Rick Hughes and Christopher Craig are battling for the fifth place points, and I don't think we've seen them stop battling for it since about an hour into this race, maybe even before that. They have been pinned to each other.
Yeah, and again, even if they are working together, we're starting to get to that time where they actually need to battle each other for who's going to take the spot. Like Rick Hughes, certainly not sending it into that corner there. Probably going to have, from what I'm looking at here, 3 laps when they cross the line next time.
It's getting to the point where Rick Hughes maybe just misses his breaking point by a few meters. Oh, but he doesn't need it. Christopher Craig's in the grass, and
he couldn't save it. Oh,
couldn't quite keep it on track. So that's gonna put Christopher Craig into the wall. Another commentator's
actually, he
curse.
did save it.
Yeah,
he just a minor tap. Yeah.
But Richard Curry looking for his first ever win in Pony Express.
Yeah, he just has to finish. He's got such a large gap on Webb behind. It's almost. I mean, he right now he's actually sending it on. They're in the oval section. He's passing Paul Boyle for the overall lead. So trying to match what Bell was able to do last week, but Bell himself is entwined with a pretty tough battle with Webb, and that's been going for a while as well.
Yeah, now Curry is ahead, but I mean, it's so irrelevant in the oval portion of this track. You can see just how long it takes for those LMP2 cars to really catch up and pass. The speed difference is not that big.
Yeah, looking at the LMP2s, if it goes to tell you anything about what strategy can do to your race, there have only been 3 people who have done a 2-pit strategy. All those guys are the top 3. So that made it for them as long as they can finish it out. Again, Nürburgring having to go one more lap than Langenberg and McCloy do, but I think they're probably safe. With 3 laps to go, it'll be 14 for Nürburgring and then 13 for those top 2, which we've seen is doable. But everyone who did 3 stops is behind those guys. So not that it was easy to do, just 2 stops, but it was the way to win.
It certainly is. Now, Zach said they had to do 2.99 stops, so they'll be right on the edge of their fuel tank by the end of this race. The question is, did they have enough, or will they have enough to make it to the end? This is Zach Nürburgring right here, as he does not really have a drafting buddy, so he's not saving any fuel right now.
Yeah, well, so it is true. He does have a 20-second gap behind. He can definitely afford to do some pretty heavy lifting with only 2 laps, to go, and not really lose that much. You want it to work out. looking like Alex Albon there, passing in the grass. But I'm surprised to not see worse damage on that car.
Yeah, he's still driving a little bit funny though. So
Yeah, there we go.
He toes to the pits. This is Mr. Atchity, who shares a name with me, and unfortunately, that pizza car is gonna be in the wall in Lesmo too.
We've seen now a few collisions with the wall that were very ginger. I think he got away without much damage there, at least. But yeah, Richard Curry still sticking ahead of Paul Boyle there. They just went through the north oval. Yeah, that thing. Okay,
Yeah,
I guess
I wouldn't call it too ginger.
Sorry about that.
Ooh,
Oh, man.
insult to injury. Is
That's the leader there. Yeah. Wow. And that was a... no, that was not Claybaugh. That was a similar looking car. That was Dyer. Trevor Dyer.
So here we go. How about this? Travis Bell found himself somebody to battle, and it's for second place. That's Jonathan Webb. And Travis Bell now up into
They touch each other.
Yeah, they're getting quite close as we go through here. Each of them holding their line quite nicely as Bell is just kind of sitting on that yellow line there. And side by side they go down into the next turn.
Goes to show what happened with Webb just falling off of that group that he was with at the start of the race, and how that's impacted him, allowing Bell to catch up. Although Bell's been alone for almost this entire race, so it was only like 5 or 6 laps ago that he got up to Webb here, but certainly a strong candidate for being able to finish in second, although both of these guys are certainly going to be the guys on the podium.
Yeah, and Bell just had to back out there going into the chicane, but certainly
more laps to try, yeah.
not over.
So I should be Langenberg's about halfway through the lap. Should be 1 lap to go in the cross, because we're at just about 2 minutes remaining. And obviously, the laps are 2.5 minutes or so. So this will be the white flag when they come around. These guys will be doing 13 laps, which is certainly doable. We've seen it before. I think that these will be our 1-2 finishers. We'll have to keep an eye on Nürnberger if he's able to make it across the line or not with his 14-lap stint. But this is it. We're coming down to the very end.
Yeah, we've seen 14 laps done before. That is Mr. Webb flashing his lights at Jeremy
Langenberg's letting McCloy by. I think they're having issues with fuel.
Are they?
Or maybe it's they don't want to be the guy in front. I kind of got duped a few weeks ago in officials at the Nordschleife with something like this, where he let me by to pass me on the straight. So Langenberg certainly slowed way down to try to let McCloy by, and McCloy didn't go by.
Interesting. Well, this is Langenberg coming up to the final turn, so there's going to be 1 more lap now. He's going to see that white flag flying.
Yeah, I have no idea if it's a fuel issue, if it's a positioning issue, but they're dealing with some traffic here in the oval for their final lap, so it'll get pretty exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely tricky to be in front with such a long straight at the end, because you don't want to get past, but you also want track position. But I don't know. It's so tricky.
Yeah, I do believe he wanted McCloy to get by and then sit behind him until as late as he wanted in this final lap. But we'll see if McCloy's able to take advantage of not accepting that open door, although he fell back. But look at that. I mean, the toe has brought him right to him, 4/10.
It's going to be close.
Oh,
Very
he's
close.
got so much faster right now. Langenberg can't do anything except for hope to get a toe back.
So McCloy is going to have
So that's
to
McCloy to the lead.
be in the lead. And they're going to come up on
some traffic, though.
Yeah. Hopefully they should get around him by the time they're in the corner.
Langenberg's getting boxed out by the traffic, though.
That looks close. Oh, my.
He's okay.
Camera angle looks like they almost hit Johnson
Side by
there.
side later on the brakes by Langenberg.
Oh, Langenberg locks it up,
left.
though.
And then
and they touch. And Don McCloy is going around. Langenberg is going to drive through that incident there, and he's going to take the lead. Now he's uncontested. He just has to bring the car home, but he's getting a little squirrely in the Lesmos as well. You can relax now, Tyler.
Yeah, that lockup, I thought that it was over for Langenberg, and then McCloy losing control. He's got some damage, but he'll be able to make it to the end. He had a huge gap on Nürnberger. Nürnberger just about lost it in the Rogia chicane also. Got into the sand nearly into the night. Currently sitting in third, but he's going all right. Doesn't seem like he's running out of fuel. Guess we'll see.
Yeah. Well, let's keep an eye out for them. But Richard Curry leading the way very nicely. But this is our closest battle. Travis Bell and Jonathan Webb. They are going to be one of the last people to finish this race. The checkered flag's flying, and that's Tyler Langenberg's for the taking after a very late contact with Don McCloy. But Tyler Langenberg does a nice job to win this race. Don McCloy takes second, and Zach Nürnberger is looking like he's going to take third. We'll find out in about just 5 seconds. Even if he runs out of fuel, I think he could probably coast it to the end and not use up that 15-second gap. But anyways, all eyes on Travis Bell. Oh my, that's a lot of Christopher Craig crash notifications. But all eyes.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
On Travis Bell and Jonathan Webb, because this is our last lap, and it's all gonna come down to this: who's gonna take second? Travis Bell chasing down Jonathan Webb for the past probably 40 minutes at least, and all comes down to this. Paletti does catch Boyle. He's about 6/10, 7/10 even off the back of Boyle.
It's probably too late though. They made their way through the second Lesmo. It's a lot of ground to gain up with just a couple turns to go.
Yes, so it's not looking as solid. This is how they look. Maybe he can use that slipstream, get a better exit out of the final.
Actually definitely is caught up here.
He's got
doing
3
well.
tenths now. Can he use the slipstream? Will it be enough? He passed Boyle at one point, and then Boyle got repassed again. Boyle got back out into the lead.
Oh no, there's a car stopped.
Oh, and that's Christopher Craig.
That's exactly where Paletti was going to send it. Oh man, that's a bummer. That ended that fun battle we almost saw take to the line.
Well, we can watch it again, except with the Mercedes this time instead of the BMW. That's Travis Bell. He's going to pull out, make the same move that Paletti was going to make. He's got the inside line into Parabolica. No defense from Jonathan Webb. Now it's going to be a race to the line, but Webb's got the outside line. Oh, but a shorter distance for Travis Bell. Does he have it? It's going to be close.
Oh, no, another car stopped.
Travis Bell, 2 1/1000ths of a second behind.
Wow.
Let's get another look at that, hey?
Yeah. Christopher Craig was Craig Willis there was damaged or out of fuel or something. And it kind of impacted our but that was an incredible finish.
Where's our timing line here? I think it's right
I'm
there.
not, it's hard to tell exactly where it's at.
I'd call it there. Now that is quite a close finish, if I do say so myself. Let's take a look at a better view here. We call this our timing line.
Okay, luckily it's at least before that car. Okay. Yeah. Oh man, that was close.
I'd call that a pretty close finish, if I do say so myself. Not a bad ending to our race, but you can see just the slightest bit ahead there is Jonathan Webb.
Wow.
But a great race nonetheless from everybody here, and a real joy. This is Nick Paletti doing some end of race spins as the Doge Squad boys do. And with that, let's take a look at our results. So Tyler Langenberg winning in LMP2, then Don McCloy and Zach Nürnberger manages to make it across the line ahead. Terry Cowger Jr. and then Nick Terrell, Paul Skip, Christopher Newby, Owen McLaughlin, Brad McCombs, Andrew Neri, Chris Richards, Mark Dillon Jr., Adrian Garcia Vahil, and Marcus Osborne.
And then the standings for our GTD Pro runners, Paul Boyle winning yet again 3 of 4 races, followed by Nicholas Paletti and Aaron Claybaugh, and then Steve Kube, Craig Willis, and Sasha Kempter.
Alrighty, and then in GTD AM, Richard Curry takes the win, and I believe, no, it was not an overall win for him, so he could not repeat what Travis Bell did last week, but still a very great win for him either way. Then Jonathan Webb, Travis Bell, Keith Roycroft, Rick Hughes, Daniel Barnett, Jeff McDonald, Leonardo Elijah, Dan Coleman, John Kelly, Christopher Craig, Donovan Johnston, Kenneth Stanley, Trevor Dyer, Stephen Shepard, Jeremy Barber, Tom Atchity, and then James Foreman.
And then lastly, Dan Real, Michael Del Sala, Daniel Hingley, and Dustin Dosfias.
All right, so a very, very solid race from everybody here tonight. I enjoyed watching it, and now we'll get to see some interviews, or I guess hear some interviews at least.
Yeah, we got some people in the waiting room already, so I'm gonna bring in beginning with our GTD AM results. So, second place by only a couple thousandths, Jonathan Webb. Jonathan, get me in the booth.
How you doing?
Doing good. That was a wild race to watch. Got second place by I think 2 thousandths over Travis Bell there. So, run us through the last. I mean, you guys were battling, or at least next to each other for the last 20 minutes or so. Run us through like the last couple laps.
They got real rowdy there. All the degrees. Few hairy moments.
I'm having trouble hearing you. You're going in and out there.
Yeah, sorry about that. There were a few hairy moments, but I think we managed to hold it tight there, especially around the last quarter. Guy stopped on the inside, but everybody managed through. Not a bad race. Felt really good.
Yeah, you were running with that large group of the GT3s at the front for the first half of that race. Actually leading a couple laps. We didn't actually catch it. So what happened where you had kind of fallen off of that group and then didn't have that draft anymore?
I just managed after the pit stop. That's when it happened. I think I managed to somehow lose a little bit of time in the pit stop. Now it's just enough to lose the draft ahead. And then after that, just getting back because they all had it and they were running away pretty well.
So we know we have some LMP2 information that we got with the state of the car. There's really hot tires from the oval, and then the brakes actually stayed warm through the heat of the tires. Was the GT3s? Were you guys also experiencing like tire overheating issues?
Yeah, the front end was a little pushy, so I was getting a lot of understeer through some of those low speed corners. High speed felt pretty good. Rear end was a little bit shaky. High-speed stuff coming up through third and fourth gear. Overall, not too bad, though.
Yeah, so you currently coming into the race were 15th, obviously missed Daytona. Best finish, first podium, so congratulations to that. Next week, a little bit more of a normal racetrack with Road America. Are you looking forward to that race? Is that a track that you're pretty comfortable with?
Yeah. I haven't really done much running at Road America, although it's pretty similar to my home course, VIR, so should be pretty fun, I'm thinking.
Well, we're looking forward to it and wish you luck and hope to see you in the booth again next week.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Have a good night, Jonathan.
You too.
That was our second place finisher, Jonathan Webb, and first time podium. And now we're going to bring in Richard Curry, who is the winner for GTDM and first win in the career. Richard, get me in the booth.
Hello.
That's a maiden win there for, certainly an interesting racetrack that I think everyone was coming into with a lot of questions. So, what was your experience? You were running nearly did what Travis Bell did last week as beating all the GTD pros as well. But running in that front peloton, what was the key to staying up at front and, having that race leading pace?
Yeah, last week I was leading as well, and I made a mistake and cost me the win. But this week with the track, I thought it was maybe going to be a bit boring after a while doing this, a lot of straights. But actually, it was really good fun. But I needed to stay in that slipstream with Paul and with Nick. That was key.
Yeah, yeah. You guys started to have some attrition. Webb fell back after the pit stop, and then Claybaugh had a wreck. So, were you? Obviously, Nick Paletti and Paul Boyle working together. Were you also communicating with them, working with them, or was it?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay.
You have to. Down the straight, you're going to lose an awful lot of time if you don't. So I was going past Paul, and then he was going past me. I was just keeping the lap times up, or keeping them low. Sorry.
What was your experience with how the tires were doing? I know we heard from an LMP2 driver that the tires were kind of getting baked up by the. It was kind of higher temperature, but also the banking of the oval. What was your experience with it?
It got a little slidey toward the end of the stints, no doubt about it. But actually, when we changed the tires, they're at 80%. So, they weren't too much cooked, but they did feel a little slidey. I'm trying to think where, especially. Coming around Parabolica was a little bit sketchy at times. I think it was probably about it. Maybe the second Lesmo as well.
Yeah, we definitely saw mistakes there for sure.
Yeah. But generally, the tires held up okay. They weren't too bad. I've had worse tires.
So coming into the race, you were 6th place for GTD AM, very close with a lot of the guys around you. I mean, just 4 points off of 4th. Unfortunately, not a lot of the guys ahead of you did too bad. But with the race win, you're going to be making up a few spots there. And as you said, Daytona didn't go how you wanted. You certainly had the pace, but hopefully that'll be a drop week by the time we come to the end. So with Road America coming up next, do you think are you confident that you'll be able to keep the momentum going for next week?
I think I need to do a bit of work on Road America. I've not raced it too much, but it's a fun track too. So get a little bit of practice in and see where I end up.
Well, look forward to it. We're looking forward to an exciting race, and hope that you have a good one, and seeing you on the podium and in the booth again.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Have a good night, Richard.
Cheers.
And that was our maiden winner, Richard Curry, for GTD. I'm now going to bring in 2nd place finisher for GTD Pro, Nick Paletti. Nick, get me in the booth.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Well, after a trio of 3rd place finishes, finally getting the 2nd, getting an interview here. So you were able to stay with that, that front peloton, that group through the entirety of the race, and then you fell off a little bit late, but then were able to catch back up. So how were you able to, when you didn't necessarily have people to work with right next to you, how were you able to make that recovery?
I think it all just came down to lap traffic, because if it would have been clean to the end, kind of how I got put off of the group was lap traffic, but then how they would catch back up to you was lap traffic or an LMP or something like that. So it was all just about making sure you had enough fuel that if you needed to, you could push to the end, because I know a lot of guys got caught out. So that last stop, I just fueled as if I was going to go, flat out, no tow the whole rest of the race. So then you don't have to worry about that. So I think that also played a part in getting me caught back up. But man, that was a heck of a final lap battle.
Yeah, we watched pretty much the entirety of that. A shame that that had to get broken up at the end. It certainly looked like you had the chance to make a move there and possibly see it come down to the line. We actually saw 2nd and 3rd for GTDM come down to a two thousandths of a second gap. Now, I was wondering, so you were with that group for most of the time. Obviously, you worked together with Aaron and Paul before Aaron had his accident, but you pit a different lap by 1 or 2 than most of the other guys. So where did that decision come from? And I guess also using a different car than the other 2 used as well.
Yeah, car choice didn't really play that big of a deal here. I think as long as you had enough room on the limiter, there's a few cars here that are just the setups just don't work. I mean, you hit the limiter before you're even in the tow. So as long as you chose a car that could hang with it, so that was like Ferrari, BMW, Merc. Those three cars were pretty good in the tow, and then it all just came down to how you could do in the what we were calling the infield. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I just decided to go Ferrari, try to see if we could do something with the constructors championship. And then with fuel, it was just saving behind people. So I was trying to see if, maybe staying out would do something, make me take less fuel at the end. But I mean, it all came down to whether or not you were in the pack or not. It didn't really matter what laps you pitted on.
So obviously, we have a small field for GTD Pro right now, so it's almost impossible for you guys to really spread each other, spread out in the points that much. So, you were 1 point ahead of Paul. With the win, he'll pop ahead of that. But then you were 6 points behind Claybaugh, who was in first. But then his incident, despite recovering from it, was actually able to make it up to third. And so, this is already close. It's going to be close throughout the rest of the season. With Road America up next, do you think that you can continue the momentum? You've gotten a podium in every single race. Do you think we'll be able to see you on that top step soon?
I hope so, but man, he's picked it up a lot this season. I don't know if it's just the new BOP and the tires that changed over the holiday, but he's picked it up. And I mean, it's the fact that basically every race I'm racing my two teammates for the podium. It makes it really hard, especially since we share information. We're talking the whole time. So, I mean, there's no advantage that we can get over each other other than just pure pace. And Paul's had that at pretty much all the tracks. And unfortunately for me, he's really good at Road America. So I'll try to stick with him and see what I can do. But he's going to be a tough guy to beat.
Yeah, it certainly is a little reminiscent to Terry just flipping a switch last season, but you certainly have the capability of fighting him for it. So we're looking forward to that, and we hope to see you in the booth again and on the podium again next week.
Yeah, thanks guys so much. Have a good night.
Yeah, good night, Nick. See you. That was our second place finisher, Nick Paletti. Now I'm going to bring in our race winner, Paul Boyle. Paul, you getting me in the booth here?
Hello, nice to see you again.
That is 3 wins of 4. Obviously, Daytona didn't go exactly how you wanted, but ideally, when we get around to drop weeks, that's one that's gone. You've been embroiled in a tight battle with your 2 teammates through this season. It's going to continue that way. You were in that group with 5 or 6 guys. How did you find a way to come out on top when? First place was swapping every lap, sometimes multiple times during the lap.
Yeah, so that race with the combined nature definitely had more of a NASCAR feel to it than a road race. It was kind of like half NASCAR, half road race, every single lap. And so both elements of strategy came into it, and the whole drafting and staying with the pack and making sure you stayed in the tow kind of played more of an impact than say at another track, for example, or a Monza normally. So it was a case of very much trying to A, stay with it, and then B, work with certain people when you had an opportunity or a break, similar to like cycling races almost. The breakaway happened, we managed to pull away from the peloton, and the rest was history.
Yeah, peloton was the word I used frequently throughout tonight as well. Definitely indicative of kind of how the pack racing sort of thing went. Now, I don't think that we ever we saw a couple of the other guys maybe fall off or pit at a different time. I don't think we ever saw you running alone. So, was that how were you communicating with the guys around you? You had Aaron Claybaugh with you for a while, but then he had the accident. And then Paletti actually did a slightly different fuel strategy to you, I think, on the final pit. So you guys were like a lap apart. So, were you communicating during that did you mean to take 2 different pit stops, like at a different time, I mean?
So myself and Nick actually managed to, and Aaron, in that fact, managed to save an extra lap of fuel over the three amateurs that were also part of our group. So they all pit a lap earlier than us on the first stint. What we noticed was actually that the undercut played a large role if you had a toe on your outlap. You had the overspeed coming out the pit lane definitely led to an advantage there and a potential break. So in that second round of pits, I actually had the fuel to match Nick if I needed to, but I elected to try an undercut, just any strategy at all to see if we could break the deadlock, so to speak.
It was one that came down to the wire. We nearly saw a chance of that actually coming out to the line. Unfortunately, got broken up by a car that I think ran out of fuel. But next week, we did asked Paletti on his how he was envisioning he'd do. He said he was a little afraid and said that you were strong at Road America and he didn't know if he'd have anything that would be able to answer. So he's hyped you up. So what do you are you confident for next week? Is Road America a strong suit for you?
So it's a tough one because Road America's been on the schedule most seasons, and iRacing features it in a fair few of the GT series as well. So it's a track that we're all familiar with. It's a track that I'm not going to need to do too much corner discovery on, and so all of our efforts are genuinely going to be down to the car and figuring out ultimate pace through that way rather than having to learn a new track. And I heard him mention that apparently I'm a beast there. I'm intrigued to find out where this data's come from because I've always been midfield or best in the last few times it's been run.
Well, certainly wouldn't shock us to see you on the top step again after a very strong season. I said it to Nick, but it does feel a little reminiscent to how we saw Terry just kind of flip another switch last season. So congratulations to what's already been a really strong season, and we look forward to seeing you in the booth some more times this season.
I'm honored with the comparison. Thank you very much. We'll see you soon.
Have a good night, Paul. That was our race winner, 3 of 4, Paul Boyle. So now I'm going to bring in our second place finisher, Don McCloy. Don, get me in the booth. You can hear me, Don. You got yourself muted right now.
Yep, I gotcha.
There we go. Definitely one that came down to the wire. Unfortunately, just came undone there in Raju. But you were at the front of that field the entire time, and you were one of 3 guys that was able to do it with 2 pit stops, which came key because all 3 of you guys finished on the podium. So, what kind of planning were you able to do early in that race when you were, in big groups of guys? To make it on the fuel with just 2 stops?
Yeah, I was mainly focused on staying, a little bit behind the pack, so hopefully I could clear any accidents, which then led into fuel saving. And then I noticed that Tyler was behind me, and I know he's won some races this year by fuel saving, so I decided to try to copy him, and that was pretty much the whole strategy. Was just copy what he does to try to make it to the end, and I barely made it. Yeah.
I wanted to know, I was watching on that final pit stop that you and Tyler took at the same time. On my screen, at the very least, I saw Tyler's car get jacked up for tires and yours not. Was that actually true? Did you not take tires on that final stop?
I did not, no.
Interesting.
I haven't.
So what was because I heard that they were getting really hot.
I actually have not taken tires all season. Maybe that's why I spin out. I don't know. But yeah, it's something that I have not done. Probably need to start doing, but yeah, I have not been doing that.
Obviously you had a very strong pace even still at the very end. So your best lap was a 23.9. I believe you were the only other than Adrian Garcia Vigil, who unfortunately crashed out of the race, only LMP2 to be able to get into the 23s. So, you were competitive throughout that entire race. During that, what's the? I kind of likened it to some NASCAR strategy, some like super speedway NASCAR strategy. What was your plans for when you pit? Were you trying to just follow the guys around you? You're talking, Don. I don't hear you.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, there we go.
Sorry. I know Tyler was able to go an extra lap on that first stop. So then on that second stint, I really just tried to coast behind him. And I know we both were doing it quite a bit. But it was pretty much just follow the leader for me. That was the whole strategy with it. I haven't had a lot of luck with fuel saving. So this is probably the first time I've actually been somewhat successful at it.
Yeah, it was clearly key to the strong finish. Again, came right down to the very wire. So, congrats on the podium. You missed Daytona, so you were down in 12th for the points. Certainly going to jump up a lot of positions from that. So congratulations on that. It's a very strong LMP2 field. So, no short feat to do that. And we look forward to you having some more podiums in the future and talking to you again potentially next week at Road America.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Have a good night, Don.
You too.
That was our second place finisher. Not first time podium. He did get some podiums and some wins in the GT4s, but first for the LMP2 season. So now we're going to bring in our winner again, Tyler Langenberg. Tyler, get me in the booth.
Hello.
You're a little bit quiet there.
Hello.
All right, that's a little bit better. So I don't think that I don't think we thought based on where you qualified, we would absolutely be expecting you up at the front. I think we even talked about it at some point when you'd made up a few positions, and it was like, oh, he's going to have a pretty decent race, but we won't see him at the top. So, how are you able to, it really came down to the fuel. How are you able to save that, those extra couple laps of fuel that almost no one else was able to do?
Well, like you said, it's a fuel race, so if you're driving it at full, you know what, like, you're not gonna get that extra lap, But that's what it ultimately came down to. If you're like driving the car off the rails and spinning and like just beating the crap out of each other, you're not gonna get an extra lap out of that. So ultimately, when I was in that lead pack in the first stint, I was like, from the beginning, I was like, I'm gonna fuel save the whole time.
Yeah.
And I ultimately was able to obviously get the win out of it, but they were also like, they were just driving too hard too early. A lot of them spun off, a lot of them wrecked out, and just cost themselves the positions. So that's, yeah.
Now, I spied something on the second to last lap coming down to the Ascari chicane. You started to slow down. Were you tactically trying to get McCloy to go around you so that you could follow as long as you wanted on the final lap?
No, I got to slow down in the technically second sheet. And I don't know why he passed me. I don't know why he didn't pass me, but maybe it was tactical from his side not to pass me because he probably thought I was doing something. I just went a little too far to the left on the first turn in the second chicane. So, yeah, ultimately, like, you see a slow car while you run behind him. I don't want to crap on him for that, but
Yeah, that was a pretty exciting finish there last lap. I noticed that you had actually locked up the front left, and I thought like, oh no, that's probably gonna be over. And then he had just spun out to the left of you, so you're able to bring it on home. So an exciting finish for sure to the race. Now, during that race, you were with a lot of different groups. Like I said, the kind of attrition, kept dropping away. But you actually had a large amount in that middle to late of the race, even I think on the second pit stop where you had a lot of solo running, and I think we kind of thought this is going to be a problem because he doesn't have the tow, and these other groups are going to catch up. But you had the pace to stay ahead. So I mean, how were you able to get pace when you were still running solo and couldn't save fuel off of some other P2s?
I mean, I was lifting and coasting into the corners, but obviously Don had caught on to that early. Like, I think halfway through the first stint, he was like, "Oh, what's Tyler? Oh, he's fuel saving. I should probably do that," and he did. And he just for the whole second stint, he was able to get that extra lap to be pit on the same lap as I did.
Got 3 wins out of 4 races, and the 4th one was just a second place. And obviously, we saw how close that one came down to as well. We have Road America next week. Is that another track that you think that you'll be strong at?
That's a great track. I think I don't want to say fuel race because I haven't looked at the numbers yet, but it might kind of be that. So
Well, we've seen fuel races go your way in the past before, that's for sure. So good luck. Congrats again to great start to a season. And we hope to see you on the podium and in the booth again next week at Road America.
all right, thank you.
Have a good night, Tyler. And that was our race winner, Tyler Langenberg.
All right, so not a bad race here at Monza. I mean, a little chaotic at points, but not too bad.
Yeah, it was definitely a challenge. It seemed like it was tougher than I expected it to be. The oval certainly beat up those tires, and that's what I think where we saw a lot of those incidents come from.
Yeah, a lot of drafting, a lot of abuse to the tires, like you said, and overall just a interesting spruced up version of E4A here tonight. But that's gonna do it for our show tonight. Road America's next, like you mentioned in the interviews, and I think that'll be a good race as well. So big thank you to our sponsor, AlienAwards.net, Roger Shank, providing all the awards and our title sponsor for this season. So thank you to them, and I think we'll see you all in about a week's time. Any final comments, Zach?
No, I'm just looking forward to Road America next week.
All right. Well, good night, everybody.